Okay, good evening and welcome to the November 23rd, 2015 Hillsborough Township Board of Education meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. In accordance with the State Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on November 19th, 2015 to the Hillsborough Beacon and Courier News. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood?
Ms. Boguszewski?
Here.
Ms. Santafonte? Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Mr. Dutta?
Here.
Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Mrs. Haas?
Here.
Mrs. Haley?
Here.
Ms. Wasson?
Here.
And Mr. Kent.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Let us rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have correspondence as is listed in the agenda, and now I'd like to hand it off to Dr. Schiff for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Kins. Good evening, everyone. This past Friday, November 20th, over 100 members of the Hillsborough community joined together for a town-wide announcement declaring this year is Hillsborough Year of Gratitude. Educators, faith-based leaders, civic group members, township administration, and business owners were invited to attend a kickoff breakfast to learn more about this year's campaign to combat the township's rate of traumatic loss and increase suicide prevention activities. During this breakfast, sponsored by Borough Safe and the Hillsborough Youth Services Commission, attendees discussed building awareness for suicide prevention and mental health support with a focus on communicating a shared and positive message of gratitude throughout the community. It is through this sense of gratitude that the group hopes to engage people to recognize that although life is sometimes overwhelming, there are so many things for which each and every one of us can be grateful. I had the opportunity to participate in this breakfast last week, and a few board members also had an opportunity to join me. A lot of heartfelt discussion and conversation occurred, and tonight we have a few of our leaders from Borough Safe who are here. If you're a member of Borough Safe or the Faith-Based Council, would you please mind standing at this time to be recognized? Thank you so much for your work. Board members, you see we have a stone in front of you as well as a pamphlet. And we have a few people from Borough Safe that are going to share with you a little bit more about what that stone symbolizes, some of the work that we've been doing through Borough Safe and our faith-based partnership as well. We have Reverend Tim Wolf, who's here tonight, as well as Melissa Callan, who, please, if you don't mind, heading on over to the microphone and sharing your thoughts with the board. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. Really? I have church in here and people talk back to me, okay? So, good evening.
Good evening.
It's been my pleasure for the past year to be part of the faith-based partnership in Hillsborough, and I've been a pastor here for over 11 years. And we actually meet right here on Sunday mornings. We rent this facility and have a great time here. Friday morning was a really wonderful event, a culmination of a bunch of things coming together, which we don't have time to share completely, but let's just say there were leaders from all areas of the community at that breakfast. Civic and education and political and business and recreation and all sorts of folks. The whole idea of this was to start off and kick off our Build Gratitude theme for this year. And of course, November is a simple way to do that, right? Because we have, in a couple days, the time we're going to stuff our faces and be grateful. And so we're able to do that, and we did that in a couple ways. Yesterday, our church did it in an unusual way. And is that the slideshow? Okay. Is it sliding? Maybe not. That's okay. I'm just curious. You'll be able to see some of the things that the children have done in the schools that are really quite wonderful. And our church yesterday each got a building block. You know those cardboard blocks? Anybody ever use those for your kids? Those blocks you put together, it takes about 4 days to put one block together, and they're really cool, red and yellow and blue. Everybody in the congregation won. All the children got one. And we put sticky notes all over them with what we're grateful for. Just a reminder that gratitude helps us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so it was really fun. It happened right here. And the schools are doing some pretty cool things with walls of gratitude and that sort of thing. All this has to do with one voice, the whole community speaking about gratitude. in our effort, a continuing effort to prevent suicide and depression and anxiety issues in our township. And so it's a great kickoff. It was a great morning and good food besides. And so thanks for being here and listening to us tonight about that. Melissa Callan's coming to share a little bit and help our board with some fun.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. My name is Melissa Callan. I'm the Regional Director for ESS, Effective School Solutions. We are housed at the high school. The Township, the board, oh my gosh, why do I get so nervous when you put me behind a podium? I don't know. We're contracted with this school district to serve the highest risk individuals. So on Friday, I had an opportunity to talk about suicide and how it impacts our community and how it impacts the state of New Jersey. I also had an opportunity to talk about gratitude and the research behind gratitude that is really the forefront that's coming out and saying that when we are grateful, we have physiological changes. We lower our blood pressure. We feel happier. We sleep better. So we really wanted to take this initiative and change the way that people think about themselves and think about what they have versus what they don't have. So the year of gratitude, we want to inspire people to do different things to bring into their community, to work, to school, to their families. How would you express gratitude? Through the slideshow, you'll see some of the ways that the schools are doing it. Reverend Tim talked about how they did it. But I want to take you as the board just through one small exercise. And this is what we did on Friday morning. Everyone was given a rock on Friday morning. So you have a rock in front of you, and you have a Sharpie marker. So I'm going to ask you, and I apologize you all don't have one, but these are not hard objects to obtain. And you can be creative, and you can do this as well. I would like you to write gratitude on one side of the rock. And if you did this activity with kids, you can get really creative, use color Sharpies, and they can decorate it. On the other side of the rock, I would like you to write something that you are grateful for. Oh, that's perfect timing. Look, the slideshow says, I am grateful for. I am not going to ask you to share that because that is your own. However, these are the things you can do with it. You can put it on your desk. So when someone says, what is that? You can explain to them, this represents the year of gratitude in Hillsborough. It becomes a talisman for you. It can become a totem. It can become, in my language, a transitional object. You can hold the rock and say 3 things that you're grateful for. Because we know if a person says 3 things they're grateful for each day, then what will happen is they will feel happier. Because when you start to go through, if I did my 3 things, and this is not rehearsed, if I did my 3 things that I'm grateful for today, is I am grateful that my daughter had a half day and I didn't totally get stressed out, because that typically stresses me out. I am grateful that actually I have an opportunity to work with this partnership in Borough Safe because it's something I'm very passionate about. So being here tonight is a pretty big thrill for me. And I'm really actually grateful today that I got to my meetings on time because they were in 3 different locations. We have a tendency to go to the things that are like family, friends, a house over our roofs. What about what we did or what we contribute to make people grateful? So I hope that this today is an opportunity for you to start to think about this. Obviously, Thursday reinforces it, but throughout the year that you participate in a year of gratitude. Outside on the table, there's resources for you from Borough Safe that talk about suicide prevention, because this truly is a step, your stepping stone in suicide prevention. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It's very heartening to see people take time out of their busy schedules to try to focus in on reducing suicides in our community and doing it in a way that sheds a real light, a real positive message in our community. heartfelt thanks goes out to my colleagues on Borough Safe as well as the Faith-Based Council. You've done such a tremendous job, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. This very important work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just that one community, one voice. This yesterday at our church, St. John's Episcopal Church in Somerville. So Father Ron Pollock participated Friday. So as everybody was coming into Children's Chapel, what are you grateful for everybody that walked in? And then also during the announcements during the service, he made reference to the Borough Safe and the Interfaith and Dr. Schiff, and that this year is a year of gratitude, and it's an effort to help prevent suicide. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. And if you wish to get involved at home, please contact the school district. Borough Safe will connect you to people that can get you more involved in this very important work. I'd like to shift gears now and talk about something completely different, which is insurance. Our insurance brokers are here tonight to share with us some information about the Affordable Care Act and the impact on our district moving forward. So with that, we have our insurance brokers from Brown & Brown, and I'm going to cue up their PowerPoint. As maybe Mr. Mahmood, you may introduce them very quickly.
We have Mrs. Mary Costanza from Brown & Brown, and I think presenting tonight is Mr. Jason DePella. So welcome, and I think that I'll let you kind of do your thing as far as the presentation on the new Affordable Care Act.
Great, thank you very much. And yeah, this is definitely shifting gears from that great discussion on gratitude, by the way. What a nice way to begin a meeting. Anyway, once again, my name is Jason Della Penna, and I'm with Brown & Brown Benefit Advisors. And with me is my colleague, Mary Costanzo. I'm our Senior Vice President for Employee Benefits Regulatory Affairs, and Mary is a benefits team leader. We've been the health benefits broker consultant for the Hillsborough Board of Ed since 2011. Mary works directly with your district on a day-to-day basis. I do not, but Mary and I both kind of are responsible for what a lot of people refer to as regulatory and compliance, and that these days includes the Affordable Care Act. Just a quick background, I've been in the insurance business about 18 years, and Mary's been in the insurance business for about 10 years. So we're here today to talk about healthcare reform and the cost of health insurance. And really what that means is the unanticipated costs of the Affordable Care Act. It obviously, maybe not obviously, it costs a lot of money to have the Affordable Care Act, and there are unanticipated costs that affect not just the Hillsborough Board of Ed, but many employers throughout the country. The slide you see on the screen is our standard disclaimer. This presentation is for informational purposes only. It's not legal guidance. We always defer to the employer's legal counsel. And it's very important in the red box there, it says, please note that regulations about the Cadillac tax have not yet been issued. Unlike a lot of the Affordable Care Act that has already been implemented and regulations have been issued, the Affordable Care Act, the Cadillac tax, which is one of our main topics for today, regulations have not been issued yet. And as we move ahead, I think you'll see why that is. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Our agenda for today, back to these unanticipated costs. We're going to talk about something that's called pay or play. It basically is, you may have heard of something called the individual mandate that says we all have to have health insurance. Well, pay or play is the employer mandate, and we're going to talk very briefly about that and possible costs to the Board of Ed there. And then we're going to have an overview of the Cadillac tax. This is really one of the major unanticipated costs, the driver of unanticipated costs. What is it, how's it calculated, and who pays it? And then if you have any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer them. So if we move to our next slide here, pay or play, offer of coverage. In a nutshell, pay or play requires employers of a certain size to offer benefits to health insurance to substantially all of their full-time employees, or they pay a penalty tax. And the next two slides here sort of define what that is, but in a nutshell, what it means is an employee that works full-time, you have to offer, and full-time is defined as 30 hours, which is on that slide. If you don't offer them benefits, you'll pay a penalty tax. So one of the unanticipated costs is, A, you'll pay a tax if you don't offer these employee benefits, or to avoid the penalty tax, you're going to have to offer them benefits to comply with the law. And there will be a cost, as we all know, with providing those benefits, the cost of the insurance premium. So moving along to the Cadillac tax. What is it? And it's not what it's called, by the way, in the law, but it's a permanent annual tax that begins in 2018 on employers that provide high-cost benefits through an employer-sponsored plan, basically your health insurance plan. It's a tax on that. All employers could be eventually subject to this tax. It is considered an excise tax, and notice the effective date of 2018. It's actually the last part of the Affordable Care Act to go into effect. The Affordable Care Act was passed in 2010. This takes effect in 2018, and that's one of the main reasons why we don't have any regulations at this time. And if we don't have any regulations, how do we know what we know, or what we like to think we know? It's because of the actual law. What was in the Affordable Care Act, that's the basis of our knowledge today, as well as some memos that the IRS has issued. The IRS hasn't issued any guidance yet, but they have issued some memos with what they think their guidance might be. So what is the purpose of the Cadillac tax? As it says, to generate $87 billion over the next 10 years to help finance the expansion of health coverage. That's kind of the stated purpose. That's what you read a lot about in the news. But the unstated purpose is to change behavior. If you look up excise tax, it's actually defined as changing behavior. The intent is to eliminate the rich plans by making them unaffordable, and therefore people will end up in high deductible type plans. It's the kind of plan I have, for example. Another term for it is consumer directed health care. What does that mean? It means you'll shop for your plan. If you have a $2,000 deductible, you'll shop for your coverage. If you have a $2,000 deductible, you might say, well, instead of going to the hospital to get that MRI or CAT scan, maybe I'll shop around. And if you shop around, that'll hopefully, the idea is, what economists say, is it'll bring down the cost of health care. So the Cadillac tax has a dual purpose in essence. And what does the Cadillac tax apply to? It basically applies to two primary things: your health insurance, the medical, major medical as a lot of people refer to it, and your prescription drug. It does apply to some other things, which we'll get to in a minute. It does not apply to those things that are on the screen: standalone dental, standalone vision, long-term care insurance, and so on. So next slide, if you wouldn't mind. How is the Cadillac tax calculated? It's based on the cost of the plan. And the cost of the plan is the actual premium. The insurance premium paid for by the employer and, very importantly, the employees. It's important to point out that the employees pay about 16 to 18% on average the cost of the plan. It varies by employee based on something called Chapter 78, which I'm sure the board is familiar with, but it works out to be about 16 to 80% of the cost. So both the employer and the employee are involved in this. Think of the health insurance bill you get from the state of New Jersey, because that's who your health coverage is with the state of New Jersey. The tax will be on that. It does not include cost-sharing amounts, and that's deductibles, co-pays, those things you pay, you might pay at the doctor's office and whatnot. That's not included. The next bullet point is it includes employer and employee contributions to a FSA, which is a flexible spending account, an HRA, which is a health reimbursement account, and a health savings account, also known as an HSA. The big one here for many school districts is the FSA, flexible spending account. Chapter 78 required that all school districts offer a flexible spending account to their employees. Well, school districts have done that. Enrollment varies among school districts, but if an employee puts money in that flexible spending account, and a flexible spending account, by the way, is used for unreimbursed medical expenses. You put the money in, it's pre-tax, you can use it to pay for bills. That's actually part of the Cadillac's tax calculation. The last bullet is, and this doesn't really, I don't think any of these apply here to Hillsborough, cost of employee assistance plans. You might have one of those, some schools do. On-site clinics, which, believe it or not, there are 2 school districts in New Jersey that have them, and wellness programs could be part of the tax. So moving along, the tax is 40% of the amount that exceeds a predetermined threshold amount. The law defines these thresholds as $10,200 for self-only coverage. So think single coverage, right? Individual coverage. And then $27,500 for other than self-only coverage. That would be family coverage, 2 adults, parent and child, parent and children. So these are the threshold amounts, and the amounts over these are taxed at 40%. Once again, in the box it says their cost includes the total premiums paid by employer and employee, but doesn't include cost-sharing amounts. Now, these threshold amounts, as they once again are defined in the law, can be adjusted, and more than likely will be. On the next slide, we'll talk about some of those adjustments. And they can be adjusted in several ways. One is a health adjustment percentage. This is based on the Federal Employee Health Benefits Plan. If the Federal Employee Health Benefits Plan inflation exceeds a certain amount, there will be an adjustment to these thresholds. Age and gender. There may be an adjustment if your age and gender mix here at the Hillsborough Board of Ed, and that's my understanding, it would be employer-specific, is different from national norms. There would be an adjustment. What we've read about that is the IRS may provide tables so you could determine what the adjustment would be. High-risk professions, think police, fire, electrical workers, they would actually have a higher threshold, base threshold, than the ones we just talked about. Qualified retirees get a higher threshold. And then the last couple things here, and these are important, Consumer Price Index. Beginning in 2019, remember the Cadillac tax takes effect in 2018. In 2019, there would be an adjustment annually based on the Consumer Price Index. I didn't say healthcare inflation. I said the Consumer Price Index. Healthcare inflation tends to run hotter, quite a bit hotter, than the Consumer Price Index. And the last thing to mention on this slide, it's not on this slide actually, is there's no adjustment for geographic location. Those threshold amounts, the $10,200 and the $27,500, are the same in New Jersey as they are in New York, as they are in Florida, California, Montana, Idaho, you name it. And that's been one of the big issues for a lot of people is that there's no adjustment geographic, but the law doesn't provide for it. So who's going to calculate the tax? Regardless if your plan is fully insured or self-insured, and you're in the state plan, so it's technically considered self-insured, the employer is responsible to calculate the Cadillac tax. So the Hillsborough Board of Ed would be responsible for calculating this tax. What's that going to look like? As we move to the next slide, we don't know yet. Because as we said earlier, forms and instructions have not yet, and guidance have not yet been issued. The IRS has given some ideas of what they're thinking about, and they're seeking comment, but once again, no regulation. For fully insured plans, by the way, the insurer is responsible to pay. Now, you're self-insured, as I said, so as a self-insured plan, you'll be responsible to pay. Now, when I say pay, I should have said remit. It says at the top of the slide, Cadillac tax. Who pays the tax? Remit would be the more appropriate term, because you're going to calculate the tax, and then you're going to actually remit the tax to the IRS. But not all that money, more than likely, is going to come out of the Board of Ed's bank accounts. It's going to be a combination, more than likely, of Board of Ed money and employee money. So that's an important point to make. So what would the tax look like for the Board of Ed? And this first slide here is the bulk of your employees are in 2 plans. Direct 10, there's 186 employees there. If we go to the next slide, there's another 620 in Direct 15. And the Cadillac tax, this shows a Cadillac tax to the Hillsborough Board of Ed of $343,000. That's on top of your premium that you're currently paying now. What's important about this slide is this is based on the 2016 health plan rates. The law goes into effect in 2018. You're already over the threshold amounts, as are many school districts in New Jersey. Not all, but many are over those amounts. So this amount is likely to go up because we still have 2 health plan renewals between now and 2018. We have January 1, 17 and January 1, 17 and January 1, 18. So these amounts, once again, are more than likely to go up unless something miraculous happens. Before I go on to any questions and answers, let's talk about politics real quick. If you follow this, as we do, because it's what we do, you'll see that in the news lately, both Democrats and Republicans claim they're against the Cadillac tax, and they want to see it eliminated or changed. Hillary Clinton, a month or two ago, said she thinks the Cadillac tax is a bad idea. And once again, Republicans have said the same thing. But a couple things to keep in mind. When they say they want to change or repeal, what does that mean? Well, it's going to mean different things for each party, more than likely. And this is just me, I mean, who knows what will happen down the road. But the Republicans typically want to get rid of the whole law. They want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. The Democrats, they'll want to make some tweaks here and there to make it better, but we have divided government. So the point is, we can't stick our head in the sand on this particular tax. Every major component of the Affordable Care Act has come to pass. Individual mandate, employer mandate, known as pay or play, reporting. I didn't even talk about reporting. That's another unanticipated cost. As you may know, you have reporting requirements. So these things are more than likely here, and I certainly don't see anything I could be wrong, but I would think that anything that was going to happen with the Cadillac tax wouldn't happen until after the next presidential election, which we know is in 2016. So does anybody have any questions for me? That's once again, the Cadillac tax. It's going to be a lot of money, potentially. Yes.
Ms. Saley, questions to the board?
So to me, this sounds like it's going to discourage. I think one of the reasons that people are attracted to come work for our district is, we have a good track record. And I'm not just saying this for school districts in general, but it's going to detract employers from offering good benefits to try to avoid paying this tax. And we had the presentation in the operations committee on what the reporting requirements are going to be, which is going to either cost us paying consultants or hiring people to take care of this, and then another $342,000 that we have a 2% cap, like it's just out of control. For
Agreed.
What? But I mean, is that your sense too, that it would detract employers from offering decent benefits to people?
Absolutely. Large employers, publicly traded companies and whatnot, a lot of them have already taken steps to change their health plans to try to mitigate this, because the thought process is 2018 is not that far away. They need to get on top of this now. So we've seen and we've read about large employers are changing their health benefits now to try to stay below the threshold. In a collectively bargained world, which you are as a public school, that's much harder to do. And once again, that goes to your point. Yes, it will detract from an employer offering those benefits.
This presentation is very similar to the one that Brown & Brown presented at the NJSBA
Yes,
convention.
correct. Mm-hmm.
So I was just curious, what were questions that you had from districts throughout New Jersey at that conference with regard to the information provided here?
Well, questions involve around strategy. How do you mitigate the Cadillac tax? Talked about earlier, offering high deductible type plans, tiered networks, which is a new buzzword lately. Horizon Blue Cross offers a health plan that has a tiered network, where if you go to a smaller network of doctors, you pay lower co-pays and brings the cost of the plan down. That's what a lot of the questions revolve around, is what can we do and how do we address that through collective bargaining, which is a challenging process.
I mean, I've seen just recently articles in other districts. I think one was in Toms River, where they're setting up wellness centers to try to take a more proactive approach to it, to have healthier people, with the thought that if you're able to promote that, then that will help reduce your overall healthcare costs.
Correct. Any other questions?
Mr. Gillette?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. Maybe two questions. One, there was some crystal ball work here with regard to regulation, but simply, are you saying if the regulation was as simple as, no, just follow the law as it's written, then it would basically be the $342,000, and that would be like minimum, because we know if nothing else changes, health care premiums are sure to go up. So that would be about the minimum that we would pay. Am I on the right track?
Yes.
I mean, the regulation could be as simple as, no, just do it, as far as, and if there's nothing else in it. So that's one part of it. The other thing is, the other part of the regulation, when you're talking about, you mentioned a couple times, for a technically a self-funded plan, that employers would likely pay and employees would likely pay. So you're waiting in the next year or two to find out guidance how that would be split. If it might be just as simple as if any individual employee is paying 18% of the premium, they must pay 18% of the excise tax also, something like that, or it might be different. Is that the kind of thing you're waiting to find out?
Exactly. That's the kind of stuff we're waiting to find out. I mean, you would think that the board's share and the employee share would be split based on their contributions, right?
You would think that, but it could be.
Who knows?
Right.
It could be totally passed on to the employees for all we know.
And as far as collective bargaining goes, would your understanding of how these laws generally work, would it mean that the proportion of employee who's paying how much proportion, if that's written into the regulation in the law, then that's something that probably couldn't be negotiated? Or how's that typically work?
This is kind of uncharted ground. On the one hand, there's already taxes built into your rates. Sure. There's some Affordable Care Act fees that are built in there. If you're with an insurance carrier on a direct basis like Horizon or Aetna, there's a state tax that's in there. Employees are already contributing, and the Board of Ed, employers are already paying on that contribution split level. So it would seem to make sense that that's how it's going to be done. But once again, this is kind of an entirely new thing here.
All right, thank you.
So one question. So as the experts in this area, what you guys generally seeing for people? What's your recommendation, or what are you generally seeing in this area where we are faced by this kind of thing?
That's a great question. In New Jersey public sector, school districts, municipalities, not much yet. There's been very little movement to change the plans, to go to lower cost plans. When Chapter 78, which was created the employee contributions, we thought we'd see lots of change. That didn't happen. And we thought we'd see change here. Public employers are just starting to kind of say, hey, we need to address this through collective bargaining. Now, you're in the state plan. The two plans that we showed on the screen that the employees are in are Direct 10 and Direct 15. Those are generally the two most expensive plans in the state plan. The state plan has other plans that are much less expensive. So that might be an option. There may be incentive for employees to enroll in those plans. And that's one of the things we talk about is employee education, especially with the state plan when you have, Mary, how many plans are in the state plan?
10 plans, 2 carriers, 20. Really.
There's 20 plans, 10 plans, and then 2 different carriers, insurance carriers, Aetna and Horizon Blue Cross. So there's a lot of options within those plans, and employee education is going to be very important. Oh, and then on the non-public employer side, once again, large employers are already making changes to their health benefits to try to keep their cost below what the Cadillac tax thresholds are.
Dr. Hassan.
Thank you. It was very, very informative presentation. I'm going to flip the question and ask, are you starting to see change from within the insurance industry, companies offering plans that are designed to stay below these limits? Because that's where I think the trend's going to be. There's going to be more employers requesting them, and they're going to, in order to keep the business, have to shift plans around in order to maintain levels below the $10,200 or $27,000. So are you starting to see that yet? Or
yes, and that's a great question. I mentioned tiered networks and Horizon Omnia earlier. Horizon has created these tiered network plans. Once again, think a network within a network, specifically for the Cadillac tax. And they've actually rolled out plans that are available to public employers. The Horizon Omnia is actually available to the municipal groups that are in the state plan. State plan has two components: the school employees health benefits plan, which you're in, and then the state health benefits plan. And then the state workers also have their own component. The municipalities have access as of January 1 to these Omnia or tiered network plans. Aetna also has their own version. I think they call it Aetna Liberty. Those plans are not yet available in the school employees health benefit plan. So yes, the high deductible health plans have been around for a while now, so that's one of the first lines of defense. And keep in mind, the Affordable Care Act restricts, at some degree, how much what's called the maximum out of pocket an employee can have and whatnot. So they can only do so much from a benefit standpoint to lower the cost of the plan.
You mentioned that the IRS has issued a number of memos
Yeah.
with regard. Have they given any guidance in terms of, on the road to 18 when different regulations or when different policies will be defined?
No. All they've said is these memos, basically what they are is the IRS's surmisings, opinions. The Affordable Care Act and the Cadillac tax provision create new terms that have never been defined before. They're trying to define some of these terms, and they are asking for comment from employers and public alike, and then down the road they will presumably issue guidance, but there's been no timetable given. The fact that they've taken these steps, that they've actually issued these memos, I forget exactly what the IRS refers to them as, but the fact that they've done this would suggest that they're working on it.
Okay. And if you can keep us apprised of when they ask for public comment, so we can make sure that we do that as a board. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Mr. Cohen. If you can.
Recent news articles about major insurance carriers, they're going to dump the ACA. How's that going to impact ACA and impact the future of this particular situation?
That's
United,
all.
for example, is saying they're going to leave.
Yes, United Healthcare came out the other day and said that they were going to have to continue to evaluate their participation in the affordable care, in the health exchanges, the marketplaces, because it may not be financially viable for them. We'll have to see. If there's no insurance carriers in the exchange or marketplace and there's no option, then that's a very important underpinning for the Affordable Care Act. There was an article, I believe it was yesterday, saying that other insurance carriers have come out and have continued to endorse and that they will continue to participate. Time will tell, but I would think if you had insurance carriers pulling out from the marketplace, it would really challenge the underpinnings of the Affordable Care Act.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Delapena.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few other announcements for the board as well as for the public. Some good news. Congratulations to Woods Road student, fourth grader, Tanvi Samanyam, and her first LEGO League robotics team called Fuzzy Logic. This past Saturday, November 21st, Tanvi and her teammates participated in the first LEGO League qualifying event in Ewing and won the event's Core Values Award. The Core Values Award recognizes a team that is able to accomplish more together than they could as individuals through shared goals, strong communication, effective problem solving, and excellent time management. Team members must demonstrate that both friendly competition and mutual gain are possible on and off the playing field. The award also celebrates a team that is empowered by the first LEGO Leagues experience and displays extraordinary enthusiasm and spirit. Tamvi and her Fuzzy Logic teammates now advance to the Northern New Jersey Championship Tournament to be held on Saturday, December 12th at Mount Olive High School. Congratulations, Tamvi. I am also pleased to announce this evening that Hillsborough's athletic director, Mike Finizzi, has been selected by the Directors of Athletic Association of New Jersey to receive their Central Sectional Award of Merit. This award is an annual award that recognizes one athletic director from each section of the state for their distinguished leadership and significant contributions made to interscholastic athletics in New Jersey. In addition to the award, Hillsborough Township Public Schools will receive scholarship money in Mike Finizzi's name for a deserving student athlete. Mike will be recognized at the DAANJ Award Banquet, which will be held on March 24th in Atlantic City. Congratulations to Mike. I know that this is a well-deserved honor for you as well as the Hillsborough Athletic Department. And finally, Niche.com recently released its 2016 list of the best high schools in the state of New Jersey. Hillsborough High School ranked as the 44th best high school in the state of New Jersey. Niches.com rankings are based upon state test scores, college readiness, graduation rates, SAT, ACT scores, teacher quality, and student and parent reviews. This ranking is a testament to the hard work that goes on at our high school each and every day. Congratulations to the staff, students, and administration for their efforts in earning this honor. That's what I have.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Schiff. Real quick on the first Lego League, it's nice to see that award because I know that's a principle and value that the robotics team at the high school level instills upon their members, and they've received multiple awards over the years in a similar vein. So it's nice to see it happening at that introductory level. Okay, thank you for the superintendent's report, Dr. Schiff. Now we'll move on to the approval of minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the October 12th, 2015 executive session minutes, and these are as they've been amended recently today.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay. Motion passes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the November 9th, 2015 public session minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, did you get? And Greg. Yep. Motion passes. Thank you. Don't have one for the, that was a special meeting. It wasn't a special meeting. Okay. The minutes from that meeting will be published as an information?
It's on
Okay.
the website, and the board received a copy.
Okay. And we have, it wasn't an official board meeting, but last week, on November 18th, we had our third public input session for the strategic plan, and the minutes from that have been posted at our website. Okay, committee reports. I believe that we had committees since the last. We'll start with education. Mrs. Haas.
Okay. Thanks. The Education Committee met on Tuesday, November 17th, and as usual, we had a very full agenda. One of the things that we discussed was the Borough Safe program, and we had a presentation from Karen Bingert and Dr. Colantino from the high school in regard to a screening program that they would like to do with our 12th graders. The tool is called the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, and it's basically a 6-question screening. And this could take place only with parental approval, and will provide our counseling staff in the high school with some information that they can use to get people some help where necessary. And the committee was in full support of the screening, and we encourage the administration to expand the screening to other grades in the near future and to follow up with the results as well. We approved the establishment of an LLD severe class at Triangle Elementary School due to enrollment increases caused by new people moving into town. And we were trying to get a waiver for the number of students that were allowed in an existing classroom, but we will now need to create a second classroom. So the Education Committee unanimously recommended doing that as well. We approved a physics textbook for the AP Physics C class. It's a very intense textbook, but we approved it. We approved several curricula, grades 7 and 8 in world language, Chinese 3 for grades 9 through 12, and Chinese 4 for grades 9 through 12. This is an expansion of our Chinese program through the grades. We had a short discussion on foreign exchange students, and it was recommended that the administration gather more information for discussion at a future time. We had an update on Park, and I believe those grades have been distributed to some degree, and we will have a presentation at our December 7th board meeting on the district's Park results in at least some grades. And there is concern throughout the state right now about how Park scores might affect graduation requirements. And there was shown to be a very large, the State Board of Ed had approved the cutoff scores for graduation, and with those cutoff scores, many in the state will see a much lower success rate than we had when HESPA was our standardized test. We also talked briefly about a grading task force review of standards-based reporting. There is some discussion going on about changing our report cards in the district to align with various standards as opposed to courses. So for an example, a student might have 4 grades in one course based on particular standards that are met by that course. And report cards may have a very different look in the future. This will continue to be updated in the future. And we had also, I just also wanted to mention that I had a wonderful experience on Wednesday morning, which Dr. Schiff didn't mention, but our technology department once again has brought to Hillsborough another exciting Google initiative called Google Expedition. And I attended the pilot demonstration over at the Orton Road School, and it was awesome. Frankly, I attended like four different classes. There was a Spanish class, and we took a very, very quick visit to Spain, South America, and Mexico, all in Spanish with the Spanish teacher. I went to a science class where we visited Mars in great detail, walking around, literally or figuratively, or photographically actually, walking around Mars and being directed by a science teacher. And in another class, we went to the depths of the ocean, and as well as the Museum of Natural History, which is an old favorite of mine. And one of the most exciting things, this Google Expedition is basically 3D photography. So you wear these 3D glasses, and you get to see these pictures. And if you look up, you know, like at the Museum of Natural History, if any of you have been there, there are dioramas on the wall. But with this thing, if you go into the whale room, you could also look up and see the whale hanging on the ceiling. It's not like a flat picture. It's all around. And likewise, we were at the top of some buildings looking at this, and you know, you could look right down and get that high anxiety feeling that you would get even if you were at a, you know, real high building and you're looking down. So it was very realistic and it was very exciting. And I'd really like to give a shout out to all the teachers who were involved in this pilot, because it was kind of unbelievable that they were handed an iPad and asked to teach a lesson. And the iPad had like prompts for teachers and ways for teachers to identify with a circle what they wanted the children to look at, and arrows that would point them into the circle in case they were having trouble finding it. And it was just unbelievable how quickly the teachers all picked up on this and made valuable lessons out of something without, much time, any time to practice. And I'd just like to give all those teachers a shout out because it was really very, exciting. And I'd also like to congratulate, as usual, Joel Handler for bringing this demo to Hillsborough and giving our teachers an exciting pilot to be involved in. I know it was done at various other schools too, a couple of elementary schools and the high school and the middle school, and I'm sure that they were all equally exciting. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Haas.
Thank you.
HR, we don't have our chair. And did they meet? I'm trying to think of HR meeting. They did meet. We'll have them report out at the next meeting. And operations, Mr. Gillette.
All right, thank you. So we had a couple of things on the agenda. We met on Wednesday. The first thing we discussed was what we've discussed here a few weeks ago, the TransFinder transportation software. We reviewed a memo from the vendor who said that they felt that we could save maybe initially about 3 to 5% or so, 3 to 5 buses. And what percent was that again? I forgot. 5%. Okay, so that's what I was remembering. They thought that on their initial review that we maybe could save 5% of our transportation costs. 5% of our transportation is, I'm going to figure this out real fast, like $225,000 in the first year. We also took a look at some other school districts that had employed this software, and they reported substantial savings. We reviewed again the enhanced features the software had on there, and we had a pretty good discussion about how the savings are actually realized. Of course, you know that inefficiencies would have to be identified using the software, inefficiencies in the bus routes, maybe in the tiering that we use or what have you. And then routes that were found to be inefficient would have to be rebid. So this set up a red flag for me, and I think the rest of the committee also. We wanted some more info on that because we just did that process just a few years ago now, and we rebid the whole district basically. And we realized a lot of savings, but we just did that a few years ago. So Mr. Mahmood, it was his belief that we would probably be able to find the most inefficient routes and rebid route by route, the ones that realize the most savings, not to turn the entire district, not to have upheaval in the entire district. And to tell you the truth, with the amount of savings that we squeezed out of this a few years ago, with almost everything on a triple tier, I don't see, that there's savings to get from every single route. But that remains to be seen. We had a little further discussion about it, and we came to the majority opinion on this one, not unanimous majority, on superintendent's recommendation and Mr. Mahmood's recommendation to go ahead and contract for that software. Quickly, we had a couple other things I want to talk about quickly. There's been a lot of discussion, I know, lately about air conditioning in the classrooms for buildings. 2 of our schools now are mostly completely, is that a wrong way to say it, just mostly air conditioned. The high school and Woodford School have very few areas that are not air conditioned, let me put it like that. The other schools have many areas that are not air conditioned. So we took a look at some school layouts and saw where those areas were. And Mr. Mahmood had a proposal that we ask our architect to, I'm trying to find out here because I'm going to tell you how much it costs. There we go. To have our architect draw up what we're calling due diligence pricing plan. Of course, they're going to need a fee for that, so $2,500 for each elementary school and $3,300 for ARIS and HMS for them to come up with the plan. We don't have to implement the plan. We'll always have the plan. We once again, by majority, we authorized Mr. Mahmood to go ahead and contact the architect to have him follow through with a review and pricing plan to bring air conditioning substantial to all of the schools in every corner, just about, which would be, pretty good. We also had, of course, a big discussion about what air conditioning the schools means for staff and for students, and what being able to work and get work done in a livable, workable environment is all about. I just have a couple more that were not really action items, but just something I wanted to go over pretty quickly here. Let's see. We took a quick look at the communications plan for the referendum that we're going to have in March. We reviewed the budget calendar, and I saw on our agenda tonight we have the first time maybe this is the first time, second time, we're looking for input from the public for the budget, so it's already budget season. We had a couple of items to do with employees. We typically, every 3 years, we put out rebids, I don't know if that's the right word, for our professionals, including this year rebidding the maintenance and custodial management. We're going to do, I'll highlight that one because we're going to do that one a little differently. This year we're going to do a what's called competitive contracting. That's a little different from lowest responsible bidder. That's where actually the bids can be graded, and the team will look at the bids and so you don't necessarily have to go with the absolute lowest responsible bidder. You can the pricing is part of it, part of the entire menu. And we're also going to, and for professional services that will go out to bid for this year, the appraiser, the architect, the attorney, and the risk broker. We're still having problems with athletic busing. The First Student does, I think, all of our athletic busing contract now. They just have a difficult time providing us the buses on time when we need them. It seems to be a problem right now in the industry in New Jersey, getting enough qualified drivers ready to go. So this is just an ongoing problem that we're working through. We had a student issue, which I'm not going to talk about, and I think that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple points on
please.
that is on the
Rambling.
excuse me, on the software for the bus routing. We also talked about cost sharing with neighboring districts, whether they are have their own fleet or if they contract with the fleet. Either way, the fleet needs to be managed. The Business Administrative Office is going to reach out to neighboring districts to see if they use it or if they'd be willing to go in for cost sharing. And then on the air conditioning plan and the assessment by the architect, that's within budget, so it's just a direction of spend within the budget, and it also will provide us data and factual data with regard to strategic plan, if part of that includes the facilities and the plant and the environment, teaching environment and the learning environment.
One question I had
Yep.
for the ops committee is that we talked about. I just asked Mr. Gillette the question. So is it possible to ask the software vendor to actually prove that they can really save something? I mean, why not? We are an 800-pound gorilla. I mean,
we talked about different things, different ways that we can get either staging of payments or things like that to help manage that.
so can they? I mean, if they prove it, I mean, then we buy it, right?
Well, I think Mr. Mahmood, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was essentially the question that you did ask. Show us what savings you can derive. The memo they gave back was brief. It was, I don't know if they had a longer discussion with you on the phone or something, or by email, but the memo that I saw was rather brief, and they said that we could probably eliminate 3 to 5 buses from our entire routing and save about 5%. Details of how they figured that out, I don't think those were provided, not in the memo anyway. So I don't know how much they actually went into their software and did, or if they were just looking at the size of our district, and we've had other districts this size, and we know we can do it. I don't know if it was that kind of thing. I really don't know.
Because over the years we have trimmed down the cost, right?
Yes.
So there may be fewer opportunities. And if there is one or two routes that we already know are inefficient, why not ask the vendor to basically take one route and show us the savings?
It's not that.
Good idea, Mr. Dunn. I mean, we certainly can put some pressure on the vendor to work with us. The other thing that we want to accent regarding that software is that is a much more advanced software package. From a safety perspective, we showed an example to the operations committee. What the current system that we're using is not geocoded. So really, we looked at a student where this old system is showing the student's home and where the new system is, and the pinpoint accuracy of the new system is just incredible. And the idea that, God forbid, there's an accident and students are in an accident, that we, from an iPhone, can actually take this bus route, click on a button in that area, get the route, the parents, the telephone numbers, and send out an instant alert instantly from the accident site. So if that were to happen. So it's not just the efficiencies, it's that this is like a state-of-the-art system that is used throughout the country. So we get a lot of money for the system as far as efficiencies, but we also get this unbelievable access to the routing information that is just, you can't put a price on that. So it's just an advantage for the board.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmood. Dr. Hassan.
My question related to the air conditioning. I'm really happy to hear that we're looking into this. This came up over and over again in the strategic planning process. My question is related to what the report from the architects will cover. Will it also go in depth as to the electrical requirements and capabilities in the school, as well as the pricing for how much it would cost to operate the equipment annually?
Yeah, that was one of the requests that we discussed. Was it's not just about the cost of the air conditioning units, but how much power does it consume, how much energy does it consume, because that's going to be additional to our operating budget. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're going to look at things like how many days we would expect it to be in operation. We can look back historically. I think the architect will have to look at that also. But I think it's going to be, my understanding, it's going to be everything short of like the blueprints. I mean, you know what I mean? It's going to be, this is what we can do, this is what it will entail, whether in some areas, window unit, believe it or not, in some areas, other means, because maybe we already have forced air. I'm not an engineer, so I don't. But I think these are what they're going to look at what we have, design something, everything short of the actual blueprint. Maybe that too. I don't know how they work. Maybe that's more efficient. But we'll have a really good. I mean, I want it to be really good because I want to be able to, like as Mr. Kin said, with so much discussion about climate at the strategic plan, and I hate to use that word, not strategic plan, climate. But with so much discussion about that, we need some, as Mr. Kin said, we need some hard data so we can have some things to really discuss.
I'll use the term climate change, which I think you hate worse, Greg. But
Well, yeah, there you go.
With the climate change that we anticipate happening if we air condition the schools, that's not only going to impact the school year, but the activities that happen in the district over the summer, including summer camps and things like that. So when they look at this, I hope that they don't just limit itself to the school year in terms of energy use. Obviously, if we're running camps or enrichment programs out of the school, that's going to have to impact the cost of those programs to the taxpayers who are taking advantage of those. So I think we really need to look at a holistic approach because we're not going to shut the air conditioning off in the summer, if the schools are in use. So thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. Mrs. Haas?
Software transfinder.
Not to belabor the software.
Yeah, here we go.
I have some concerns about spending $80,000 for something that's going to eliminate possibly 3 to 5 buses, because given the current efficiency of our bus system and our bus routing that was, as you said, revised to a savings of $1 million just 2 years ago, right?
3, yeah, just a few.
My guess is that whatever inefficiencies are left are probably related to the fact that we're a 54-square-mile town, and we might not want to put people on a bus for an hour and a half. just so that we could fill a bus with 54 kids and be very efficient. So I hope in the efficiency equation, we're not doing things that are, counter to the interest of children.
Okay.
And my other question would be, how many other software packages were reviewed? I'm a little bit surprised that we would spend $80,000 on a package and not look at other programs that might be a quarter of the price.
The second question I'm going to hand over to Ms. But first, let me speak to you for before I forget it. I think I may already have. The example that I know we're both in the same boat. We're both up there.
That's not good, Greg.
I know. Well, the example that we were shown when we initially looked at this, as far as efficiencies were, basically shaving miles because buses were not moving through their route. I hate to use the word efficiently. We keep using that word a bunch of times, but these were the examples we were shown. So we saw that this is where the bus goes. It can go like this, and we saw the map and the whole thing. And this is, a couple of miles a day, but that's, or how many miles are 5 miles a day, or the bus is on triple tier, so that's, 10 miles a day with 180 school days. That's 1,800 miles. So how much is that? Things like that. So you're correct to say it's not just a number of buses. Some of it is also the actual path they take on their many runs during the day.
Yeah, this just sounds too much like a sales pitch.
Well, I think we're concentrating on the efficiency because that was one of the things that we talked about. Can we afford this? Maybe it will pay for itself. But the other things that Mr. Mahmood spoke of, we looked at both software side by side. The current one and this one, and there's no comparison. There's no comparison. It looks like we're using, like Windows 1.0 with the other one, and when we're like on the latest, Mac, whatever, on the newer one. I don't know. Is that something that the kids will understand?
You're talking to somebody who's got a Zoom.
But what about that other question, Mr. Mahmood?
Yeah, I believe Mrs. Host and Mrs. Decker has looked at other software. She is a board member sitting on the state's Department of Transportation. They have their own association. She's an officer in that association, so she does have a direct correlation with the software packages that are out the state. I think that she has looked at other packages. Have we formally gone out to bid? We can certainly do that. But I think Mrs. Decker's involvement as an officer throughout the state certainly gives us an advantage to what's the best package that's out there. As far as talking a little bit about the $80,000, I just want to be clear that we're not spending $80,000 on a software package. What comes with that is a myriad of things, and I do have an itemized breakdown that I can share some of the things. So we're paying for licensing, we're paying for all these different various things, and I can break down that. But the idea that we're spending $80,000 is not, yes, we are, but that comes with a host of things that come with the software.
Including training.
And I'm prepared to certainly itemize that for the board so you can see exactly what that is.
Well, I would like to see that.
Sure.
And I would also just ask the question, how are we getting around the bidding process?
We have looked at this software. We have an existing software. What we will do is go out and do a competitive process. Chances are this software is going to be selected anyway, but we will not violate any bidding laws as far as selecting a software. So this is a proposal. The board's looking at a proposal. When we're ready to sign a contract, we'll make sure that we comply with all the laws.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions with regard to the committee reports?
Let's start voting.
Okay,
It's gonna be
moving
I just want
on.
to thank the administration for taking a serious look at this and looking at efficiencies and trying to improve upon our transportation, because over the period of however many months I've been doing this, it seems that we've always seemed to be butting heads against transportation issues. At some point, you got to get past it. So I'm glad to see the administration doing this.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Okay, now we're going to open it up to the public. First off is public on the 2016-17 budget. As Mr. Gillette mentioned, we've already entered into the budget season. Again, this is for our annual budget. This will be for the 2016 17 academic year. So if anybody has any public or any public comment and input with regard to next year's budget as we go through the budget process, please come up to the podium. Okay. Seeing none, now I'll open it up to is this on the budget?
No, next.
Perhaps.
Okay.
It's, yes, it does have some budget implications to
Okay.
it. Sorry, I don't know
If we can,
hear me.
if we can keep it to the budget part, and then you can stand right there, and I'll open it up to the next part. Thanks.
Thank you. My name's Joe Alexander, and I've been a resident of Hillsborough since 1997, and my daughter has played 4 years of volleyball at the high school, and what I'd like to talk to you about is extending the volleyball program to include a freshman level volleyball team. And the budget implications of that, to keep it specific to what you asked me for, is from the sources that I've talked to within the athletics area, would be about between $8,000 and $10,000 for the year. And I have other details I'd like to share with you when the time is right.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Stay there. Is there any other comment on the budget? Okay. Now I'll open it up to general comments from the board and public. As we've stated before, we very much welcome and value input from the public. There are 2 times. This is one where public is invited to speak, and that's to provide input to the board. 1 times right now, which is listed on tonight's items on tonight's agenda or new business. There'll be another public input section at the end of the meeting about any topic. Please understand public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather is offered as opportunities for the public to share their thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes there's a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent will address the comment. And there may be times when a member of the public makes a comment or asks a question about personnel or hiring decisions. New Jersey statutes do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session. Before you make a comment, please state your name, address, group affiliation if appropriate, and also, this is public comment, so it does become part of the public record. Sir.
Okay. So my name is Joe Alexander. I live at 11 Huey Lane here in Hillsborough. So as a parent of a senior who was fortunate enough to play volleyball for 4 years, I've seen firsthand how athletics can help round out a teenage girl, helping her to develop an identity at a vital time in her life and giving her a place, really a group to belong to in a school of over 2,400 kids. Nicole played basketball from first through 8th grade, and she really liked it, but she knew she wanted to do something different. So she took it upon herself to get ready for her freshman year to go out for the team, and she was able to get herself prepared. And really, for her, it was more than just making a team. It helped her with her self-esteem. It helped her feel anchored at Hillsborough High School, which is not an easy task. It's such a large environment, moving from the middle school to the high school. It gave her a sense of belonging, especially at a time when many kids struggle to find a place to fit in. I'm happy that she had the opportunity, and I'm happy for her that for those 4 years she was on the team. But what I saw over those same 4 years was scores of freshman kids that were cut from the process and basically left on the side. And while I don't feel that everyone should make the team, there were definitely girls that could have played volleyball and could have contributed to the program if there was a freshman team. I do want to speak a little bit about the coach. Coach Ione has been the coach for the last 4 years. She's done a tremendous job. She's taken full rosters. She's taken 15 and 16 girls. 6 girls play at a time. So there's a lot of girls sitting. And yes, they get practice time, but she and Mike Finizzi have done great things to try to extend the program in any way they possibly can to outreach to as many of the young girls coming into the school as possible. So each year, I think the stats show that Coach Ione had to turn away 20-plus freshmen and over the past 4 seasons on average. The freshman girls who make the team have to play at a JV level, and they have to learn how to play the game. They have to learn where to be on the court. It's a lot. And typically, the freshmen who do make the team don't have the same skill set as the JV or as the sophomores and juniors, so they don't get a lot of playing time. The learning curve is extremely steep for freshman girls, and especially when they play in our conference, in the Skylands Conference, against Ridge and Central and North Hunterdon. Those are all state-ranked teams year in and year out. And the other thing that's very common across all of them is they all have a freshman program. So they're developing girls, they're developing their volleyball program. And I just will leave you with, for me, athletics is a great complement to scholastics. It's helped my daughter focus. The contract that she signed, I think, it was an eye-opener for her. She knows that it's a non-negotiable. She has to get good grades. She's done that. It's kept her focused. She's learned hard work and dedication, feeling part of a thing bigger than herself. So, in closing, I ask you as the board to take action to extend the girls' volleyball program to include a freshman level team for the next season. I think it's a modest proposal in terms of the entire spend on athletics for the high school, and it allows the freshman girls to develop at a more gradual and normal pace, a regular pace, and learn the game. Thank you for the opportunity to share this story, and I appreciate your consideration.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Maria DeLucia, 122 South Triangle Road, Hillsborough. I'm also the second vice president of the HEA. I want to talk tonight, considering your presentation on the excise tax. The IRS is at best speculating. This would be premature to take action on. And as a taxpayer, I am concerned that the presentation of speculation as fact can create confusion and detract from meaningful conversation. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Henry Goodhue, 16 Laurel Drive, Hillsborough Education Association President. Without question, a Board of Education is charged with the duty to responsibly plan for the future, but this must be diligently weighed against their current responsibilities. The presentation of speculative information in a public forum that will be viewed by employees serves little purpose beyond creating misinformation, raising levels of stress, and detracting from the important work that occurs within our schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tara Romano, Orton Road in Hillsborough. This is my first time up here. During the week of Thanksgiving, I wanted to say thank you to the Hillsborough Township Board of Education and the school district for providing a solid education for our children, as well as doing a stellar job in keeping them safe during the school year. We're all truly proud to be part of the Hillsborough school system. I come to you today not only as a parent with a child with food allergies, but also as a registered nurse over 17 years of experience. I am extremely concerned about the safety of our children in a specific situation lying within our school's walls. We all have noticed a rise in allergies, food allergies in particular, over the past few years. Our school system has done well with keeping up with this changing situation. As parents of a child with allergies, we are presented with a decision each year whether we should have our daughter be a delegate to self-administer her EpiPen in the event of an anaphylactic reaction. Our answer is a big no and will remain no until my husband and I feel that our child is both mature enough and skilled enough to self-administer this emergency medication. This could be years until we're comfortable. Not only is age a factor, but when a person is having an anaphylactic reaction, they lose oxygen to the brain due to breathing difficulties and are not necessarily adept at making judgment calls at that moment, like injecting an EpiPen. Lending a little pathophysiology of epinephrine, it's called adrenaline. It's used in nursing when someone codes, and it's meant to resuscitate a body, as some of you may know. It constricts the blood vessels, it gives a person a higher blood pressure, faster heart rate, and shunts blood to all vital organs. It relaxes smooth muscle in the lungs to improve breathing, but if used wrong, it could kill a person. With such a serious and truly dangerous medication, I am concerned and baffled as to why a parent and as a nurse, as myself, would allow a child in elementary school to carry such a medication around with them. Whether they are their own delegate or just carrying this medication around with them to have it close by, I am concerned that we are now allowing a loaded gun to enter our classrooms under the guidance of small children. These EpiPens look like fun toys, and here's one, and it is fun. That's how you inject it. The other one talks, and that's really fun for kids to play with too. If kids get their hands on this, they could kill either themselves or someone else in the classroom, and that's including the teacher, staff, whoever. It looks fun. The position of the teacher in the class also looks pretty bleak in this kind of situation. She or he already has to try keeping his or her eyes on 20-plus children. It would be unfair for the teacher and the students if she had to keep an eye on each one child's EpiPen due to its dangerous nature. She would have to neglect the other students and watch this child with the EpiPen. If a child injected themselves or another child, it could be fatal. Given to the wrong child, you could fry their heart. Why would we want to take a chance with this? We don't put defibrillators in classrooms for student access, but yet a defibrillator is the electric form of epinephrine. It gives the heart a jolt. The district's taking a huge risk with the safety of all of our children and staff having EpiPens accessible to children's hands. If we allow this, who is ensuring the safety of the children in a self-delegates class? We're catering to people's wants at the expense of our universal safety. There is no comfort in having epinephrine within the reach of a child. It's extremely dangerous. Our township has very qualified nursing staff and delegates trained to safely store and administer this medication. In addition, it is now a state mandate that all schools have it in accessible areas throughout the schools. And it can be administered to any child or any adult who should have an allergic reaction. And let's face it, anybody can have an allergic reaction at any time. After speaking with Principal Eckstein at Hillsborough Elementary School, we were assured that these EpiPens were located in every hallway of the school. We were also assured that there were more than enough delegates within our school to cover each hallway. We're working on obtaining a lunch aid delegate on the playground to carry an EpiPen, as this would be the place that children would be at most at risk for allergic reactions after lunch and outside with insects that sting. We're comfortable with these safeties as well as our allergic reaction plan for our child that we set up. There is no need for our child to carry an EpiPen around with her when it is so accessible within the confines of school policy. I'd like to also talk about the distinction of terms allergy-free versus allergy-aware, as our school system is allergy-aware. I was interested in looking up in districts that claim they are nut-free. Again, everybody generalizes and says you have an allergy of nuts, and there's a million different allergies. It's very hard to contain an allergy to milk. We have milk in the cafeterias, so there's many allergies that are very hard to keep control of. The policies of a nut-free district are wide open for error. Labeling a classroom or school nut-free has been shown to actually increase the risk of allergic reaction due to a false sense of security. It encourages inattention to things like inadequate monitoring of meals and snacks, cleanup after food is served, and reinforcing good practices like not sharing food at school. In a nearby district, their policy states that they are nut-free and nut byproduct free. I wonder if this district is now wanting to take back what they had put into place. In life, nothing is guaranteed. I think about this when I do infection control at my job. We have it to track the chain of infection. The same goes with the allergen path. For example, every day our children bring out into our school outside elements They include breakfast. What did they step on at the bus stop? Did they sneeze into a tissue or into their arm? Did they eat trail mix before they sneezed into their tissue or arm? This residue also runs in your saliva, your snot, and any kind of mucus in your body. Did they wipe their hands on their clothes? There will never be a way to have any district guarantee an allergy-free environment unless they are hermetically sealed windows and doors put into each child's room. You put a child in a decontamination booth, make them disinfect their mouths, and incinerate their clothes. The idea of containment and obliteration will never happen, and if they do, it's not a guarantee even then. There will always be risks even in our homes. We can, however, continue to be allergen aware as our school system promotes and use this as a teachable moment, teaching our children that we are all different. We can teach them sensitivity to others' needs. Being an allergy parent, we teach our daughter what she can eat, questions to ask, and how she can make decisions for herself. She knows that there's times she will not be able to eat certain foods, and this is okay. We empower her to take care of herself. We do not encourage her policing other people in her school or outside the school to do this job for her. She and we are responsible for her and no one else. We instill this in our child because she'll have to master these skills throughout her lifetime. Any parent reserves the right to advocate for their child within reason as long as it's globally fair for all of the children in the school. Everything in nature works out in moderation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Gata. I live on 27 Pearl Road. I actually grew up in Hillsborough. I went to school here, and then I moved to New York for a while. And I convinced my husband to move back to New Jersey for various reasons, especially for the school systems. And when I was pregnant with my first daughter, who is now in 4th grade at Hillsborough Elementary, he was persistent in sending her to a private school. And after much coercion and giving him specifics of him understanding why our taxes are high because of the amazing school district, he had no problem sending her to any of the schools in town. My concern is what she started at kindergarten level and now she's at 4th grade, is not the same experience that my 1st grade son is having. And what I did for the school, which I do a lot for the school, I'm involved in everything, I am starting to regress a little bit on the areas that I choose to get involved in because of the stipulations and the constant negativity towards the class parties, what can be brought in, and things like that. I just want to give you a little bit of my history. I do not come from an unempathetic place. I have a 3-year-old that has a severe anaphylactic response to anything dairy. If you touch him with a Dorito finger, he will start to swell up. If you touch him with a Cheez-It or a Cheeto hand, you immediately have to give him Benadryl. You give him milk, he goes into anaphylaxis right away. This is something that we found when he was 6 months old. My other 2 kids were 6 and 3 at the time. Their favorite drink is chocolate milk. Their favorite snacks are yogurt. And I chose to continue to have everything dairy in my home. I raised my other 2 kids at that young of an age that they can still enjoy all the things that they love to eat. They just have to make sure that they're very careful around their brother. When they're done, they throw it out. When they're done, they wash their hands. So as far as that, I'm completely empathetic to parents that are concerned and in fear. But I also feel that as a parent, when you wake up in the morning, you can be worried about everything. Your kid going on the bus and the bus getting into an accident. You getting to school and the school having a fire. My child slipping and falling on the blacktop. There's a million things that I could say. Maybe I want my kid home with me all day because I'm so in fear of what's going to happen. But I also look at the amazing things that he and she gets out of going to a school. The friendships, the teachers, the staff. and all this stuff that they can take their mind off of maybe issues that they have at home. I have a chronic illness that I've had since I was a little kid. My illness has no cure. It's inflicted by food. The simplest thing will put me right into a hospital, and I don't expect anybody around me to cater to my dietary needs. I've learned, because my parents taught me, that these are the foods that you can and cannot eat, as well as my son at 3. A few things that I've noticed that have changed since my daughter started school and now my son, who's in 1st grade, was the bread making and the gingerbread making. I know that sounds silly, but when you have a child that does not want to get on the bus because she fears that her mom will not be home when she gets home, these activities are things that she will always remember. Since my son has started at HES, he has not had the opportunity to make a gingerbread using food because that has been taken away. He has not had the opportunity to do bread making because that has taken away. And you can say that it's not for allergy reasons, but I think we all know that it is. It's not something that's taken out of the curriculum. I think it was an hour tops that it took for our kids to have this event. We can't have food at the Halloween party anymore. We can only have the parade and then do a short game. While I know that there were other schools that had plenty of food in their classrooms this year, HES was not allowed. We can't bring in food to celebrate our child's birthday. I missed my child's birthday because I was in the hospital. And so he was not able to have a birthday in school either. Our class parties are permitted food, but only allowed to have one sweet snack. I have Crohn's disease. If you had a student with Crohn's disease, they would not be able to have fruit. They would not be able to have vegetables. 90% of the food that is allotted for these parties now are something that a Crohn's or colitis child would not be able to eat. Going into the school year, my son had the opportunity and has the opportunity to have one of the best 1st grade kindergarten teachers, Mrs. Kasha. I don't know who was more happy, me or him, when we found out that we were getting her. A week prior to school starting, I had found out that there was going to be some students in the classroom that we knew had allergies. We knew that there was some issues with them in prior years, and I'm going to be honest with you, I actually emailed the school and asked if possibly he could have his classroom switched. And while they were going to accommodate me, my husband and I kind of took a step back and said, it's not fair to our son. It's not fair to our son to be taken out of a teacher's room that we know he would just gain tremendous amount from. So we said we could push past any other issues aside. Within the first week, I received a letter stating that now I have to separate my son's classroom snack, from his lunch. So now I have to buy brown paper bags, and he has to have his snack put into that bag. I feel that if you're going to mandate that on me as a parent mandating that, then it is your responsibility to now either provide that for all of us parents that are in that class, or just understand that that is not a reasonable allergy accommodation, period. Then a couple weeks passed, I find out from my child, nothing was sent home, that he now has to wash his hands before and after snack, which if the classroom is peanut-free, why is he washing his hands? After recess, which I can understand after lunch, which is not is not for the entire school, but only for his class. But it's not after lunch, it's after recess. So that leads me to believe, well, then if he had something with peanut butter or peanuts and he touches this child, then hasn't the contamination occurred? Why are we washing his hands after recess? And there's a few other times throughout the day that he has to wash his hands. When he is walking into school, he is asked if he had peanuts or anything with peanut for breakfast. My child actually fought with my husband and I over the snack that we packed him 2 weeks ago because he was insistent that I had packed him a peanut butter granola bar. And until we had to tell him, look at the writing, there is no peanut, it is chocolate, he refused to let me put that in his snack bag. We are giving our kids fear of certain foods. When I understand, because like I said, I have an anaphylactic child, but I would never impose when my son starts school at HES that there be no dairy, that there be no Doritos or Cheez-Its or Cheetos. It's the same thing. He would have the same response as if these children had peanuts. So my question to you tonight is, where do we draw the line? Where does it stop? Am I going to get a letter every week for another, a different form of packing his snack, packing his lunch, what I can, what I can't pack? I don't feel any parent has the right to tell me what I feed my child for breakfast. I'm sorry, you don't. My child could sit on a Snickers bar and go into that classroom, and now there is peanuts in that classroom. I feel if we don't put a stop to this now, the issues are only going to get larger. We had to beg teachers to be class parents this year, beg them. And, you know, I find it to be sad. And so that's what I leave you with tonight is I just want to know when we as a town and as a board say these are not reasonable accommodations anymore, and that's it.
Thank you. Okay, real quick, I see that there's a number of people behind you, so we do have a limited amount of time. So if we can, try 2-3 minutes for each item, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Sure. Matthew Chicklace. I live at 302 Thatcher Terrace. I've lived in Hillsborough basically my whole life. I went through elementary school, middle school, as well as the high school. Like I said, I am a resident and parent of 2 students at HES. With family and friends that have severe and life-threatening allergies, I'm sensitive to the needs and concerns, but I'm very concerned about what the district has allowed and what is reasonable for students with allergies that are significantly impacting other children at HES. You have my letter, and I assume you have read it. If you have not, I request that you do so. I'm not going to read it now, but I have a couple questions that summarize but does not exhaust all of my concerns. What is the board doing now to protect my son and other children from dangers of easy access to medication that's being permitted in the classroom and carried by a student? The district policy does not allow for students to carry medication. We don't even allow 18-year-old high school adults to carry Tylenol into the school. What if a child stepped on this bag and released a needle into his foot, as we saw how easy it was before? EpiPens can cause cardiac arrest. If a student requires medication in the classroom, then put it in the adult's hands. What is the district going to do to protect my son and other children from developing an irrational fear of nuts? My son refuses to eat granola bars, which is absolutely ridiculous. He's eaten these bars for years, but because the package says they may be processed in the same area as nuts or have a picture of nuts, he now refuses to take them. This is unacceptable. We took down the sunflowers for irrational fears. What are we going to do now? Take down the trees outside the building just in case we have seasonal allergies? Who's going to protect the children from developing OCD from the excessive hand washing or from the irrational that is going to start on the irritation that's going to start on the skin with the colder weather because of the excess hand washing? Enough is enough. We cannot keep allowing accommodations that are risking the well-being of many students.
Thank you.
Michelle Amato, Northview Drive, Hillsborough. I am a proud parent of 2 children that currently attend Hillsborough Elementary School. and a third one that will attend next year. I would like to express what a phenomenal job the principal, teachers, and staff do at HES for the children. This is one of the reasons I volunteer my time at this wonderful school. It has come to my attention of some unreasonable requests that have been granted at the school within the last few years. I just want to state the interests of the entire student body should be considered by the Board of Education when all decisions are made. The community, all of us, need to work proactively to make our school a safe and pleasant environment that fosters learning for all children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sylvie Snyder. I live on Prowl Road in Hillsborough as well. I come as a parent of a child with severe life-threatening food allergies, really to lend support to the idea that unreasonable accommodations are not needed for our students. I have 2 children in the district, one at HES and one at Auten Road. My older son did not have food allergies, but he did have a medical need that I always felt very comfortable was attended to at his school. My little one is in 2nd grade at HES, and she does have a very severe life-threatening food allergy to the point that any contact can cause her to go into distress. She is allergic to peanuts, tree nuts, and sesame, which is one that's a little different than what we're used to hearing, which I think also speaks to a lot of this because we talk so much about the peanuts and the nuts, and my daughter can certainly be sitting next to someone that has something that is safe for them, but can be really very life-threatening to her. We have had situations where one touch, she had a hive. We once came off of an airplane and she could barely breathe. The day after she had the skin test at the allergist's office, she was in respiratory distress due to the testing on her arm, to the point that had she gone to bed that night, she would not have woken up. However, I'm here really to say that it is my job to teach my daughter how to take care of herself. She is 7, and she knows and can say probably some of her first words were peanuts, tree nuts, and sesame. Anyone who knows her from a very young age knows that she literally, you would kind of try to feed her something, and the first things that would come out of her mouth were, does that have peanuts, tree nuts, or sesame in it? I took it upon myself to make sure that she knew how to handle that situation. It is my job to teach her that she should always do that checking, that if she can't read the label, she should ask a responsible adult to assist her in doing so. It is my job to teach her the life skills that will carry her through life with regard to her allergies, as well as many other trials and tribulations that she may encounter someday. I chose to keep her in daycare from a very early age, and I had full trust in that facility that they were going to make sure that her needs were met. I feel the same way at Hillsborough Elementary School. I, too, have met with Principal Eckstein, and I feel completely confident that she and Mrs. Gagliardi and the other staff there will ensure that my child is safe. I provide all of her food, as I did for her when she was in daycare, because that's the way that I feel most safe, knowing, that she will be safe every day when she goes to school. When I decided to, obviously send her to HES, which was not even a question, I knew, because I had already known the staff, that she was going to be safe there. I spoke with her immediately about the allergy table. I told her that that was not even an option. She had to sit there. It wasn't, a maybe, can I please go sit somewhere else? It was, this is where you will sit, this is a part of your life, and you're going to learn to always have to deal with it. She never argued with me. She never cried. One of her best friends is now a little girl that she met at the allergy table. And, for her, that's a happy place to be. And I feel happy that she does not feel stigmatized sitting there. However, I do worry that with all of this kind of stuff that's going on with regard to allergy children and the unreasonable accommodations that people are asking for, it might become that way. I know that they are not allowed to bring friends with them to the table anymore. And, for her, it's okay because she does have a friend there, but it's a shame that it has come to that. like I said, I think it is my job to really teach my child the tools she needs to get through life. I'm a social worker. I run a program for evaluating child abuse, so every day I deal with really horrible things. And I know that when I look at the children that I deal with every day, I wish I could wrap them up in bubbles and protect them from the things that they're going to encounter. But we can't do that. I can teach my child what a pedophile looks like, because unfortunately that's what I deal with every day. But I can teach her to always kind of be aware of her surroundings, ask questions, and I treat the nuts and that kind of stuff in the same way. I teach my child to take care of herself and to look to the people around her who can really help her. So I just want to say, this is how I feel, and thank you to the school district for really always putting good attention on our children. The kind that really will help them get through life, and that I don't want anything unreasonable given to our children. I want them to be treated kind of like everybody else. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Snyder.
Good evening. Thomas Zubelli, 9 Upper Neshannock Court. I first must comment on all the parents. I was actually inspired. I have a peanut and tree nut allergy, and so I went through the school system. I'm a graduate of high school 2012, and so my mom did bring in a cake for me. I remember it was a fire engine cake and all, and I was so happy, and brought in a Bug's Life cake for my brother. We're twins. But so I just want to give my support to these parents, because it does sound ridiculous here. So, most recently, within the last month, I ate a cookie that I shouldn't have, and I had a reaction to it. But again, it was through my own fault and my lack of not being responsible. So kudos to all the parents teaching their children, because that's the parents' job. And so these ridiculous ideas of limiting what you can and can't bring, we must stop this. But also, I wanted to talk quickly about, I want to congratulate and thank the board for having that presentation on Obamacare. I know everyone was afraid to use the term Obamacare, but that's what we call it, Obamacare. So I appreciate the presentation, because though it is speculative, it's important to understand, at least have an idea of what's going on. And if you have any complaints, write to the IRS, because the IRS should be on top of this, because they were the ones who they're the ones who have to carry out the regulation, and they should understand that boards need this information, and other public entities. So if you have a complaint, talk to the IRS and get on them to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zabala.
Thank you, Mr. Kinst. Just to comment a little bit about what the parents brought up tonight. Our reaction to children with life-threatening allergies is governed by Policy 5331, entitled The Management of Life-Threatening Allergies in Schools. And it's put in place, and I think we could probably all agree on this, that we don't want any kid to get sick or get harmed when they're in school or go into anaphylactic shock, God forbid. I think we can all agree on that. The question is, how do we address the needs of children with particular life-threatening allergies in a way that's reasonable, in a way that's defensible, frankly? And this particular policy has associated regulations that go along with it, and I encourage you to go to our website and actually take a look at it, read through it. It has in it what has been defined and adjudicated through the court system about what is reasonable. Things like hand washing, not unreasonable. Things like wiping off surfaces. Let me finish, sir. Things like wiping off surfaces, not unreasonable. And we may differ. I think reasonable people can differ on what is reasonable or not. But the board doesn't make decisions willy-nilly on these type of things. It's based upon what is in our regulations, what is in our policies. And on top of that, children with life-threatening allergies, and some parents choose to activate this, some parents choose not to, but they have the right to an individualized health plan and an individualized emergency health plan to deal with those things. It's again outlined in the regulations 5331. And what that does is provides certain supports for those children that have life-threatening allergies. That's what the board must do. This is what is allowable through law. And I hope that we can work together to try to make sure that what is defined within our regulations, within our policies, and the concerns that have been expressed tonight, that we can close that divide somewhat. I hope we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Continuing on with the action agenda, we have the action agenda. Dr. Schiff.
All right. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of education to approve professional and travel-related expenses, the HIB investigative lists, textbooks as reported out of education, the world language curriculum, and the establishment of a new class.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items A1 through A5 of the action agenda.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Dev first. Okay. Any discussion?
There's an A6.
I'm sorry. There's also an A6 to approve an out-of-district placement. I just misread.
Through A, okay, so amended through A6. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Dutta?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Continuing on with the action agenda. Dr. Schiff.
Thank you. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions that I'm making under the area of human resources to approve the attached resolution creating 2 full-time instructional assistants, to approve the resignation as listed, the contract changes, and approve the appointments of a teacher, school psychologist, instructional assistants, co-curricular advisors, coaches, substitutes, group changes, extra period coverage, mentors, and revised mentor assignments.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items B1 through B8 of the action agenda.
So moved.
Mr. President,
Yep.
I'd like to pull
Hold
item
on.
B4.5.2.
I have separations too.
Okay, let's get through the first and then I'll separate out.
Okay.
Okay, so B1 through B8, I think I heard.
So moved.
Okay, then second.
Second.
Okay, all right, so B, separate out B452.
Okay.
I have B2.1 and B8.
B8. Okay. And B4. I got it. All right, so this is for items B1 through B8. Or no, I'm sorry. Let's just call it B1 through B7, excluding B2.1 and B452.
And B8.
And that's why I said through B7.
Sorry. Got it.
Okay. And B8. All right. Any discussion on those items? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Dutta?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve item B2.1 of the action agenda.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So this is for item B2.1. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Ms. Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Dutta?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas? Mrs. Haley?
No.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items 4.5-4.5.2.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Cohen.
Mr. President, I'd just like to, okay? Just wanted to, I brought this up because before the meeting, I had a moment to speak to our staff regarding the process that went through this recommendation. And although we're not allowed to address the specific of a hiring, in this case, I'd just like to take this opportunity on these hires that we need to address in the future of bringing in a sort of a committee, an oversight committee for athletics. That I fear that, I'd just like to have that discussion down the road. And I'd like to find out what the process is regarding having that discussion and bringing to light a need for an athletics oversight committee. And in light of the rulings on ethics regarding board members being allowed to participate in the process, I don't want this to go by. We're letting this go by, and we're not doing anything about it. And I want to start it now.
Okay.
All right, so I'm addressing this to administration. I'm asking superintendent to put something in place for us to start this process. I think we've heard from our legal advisors. We understand the process. We know what we can be involved in, what we can't be involved in, and we need to set this up immediately.
Okay. Well, refer it to Human Resources and also the Governance Committee.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I can see that on the next agenda.
And Mr. Carn, you're talking about the an opinion that came out like almost a year ago now, that said that board members were permitted to be on selection committees for certain types of employees, and we asked Dr. Schiff to go back and see if we can get a further opinion from our own attorney about what that meant. And I remember myself saying that, tell the attorney, I can't tell you what to do, but my idea was to tell the attorney, we want to be the most activist board in the state. What can we do? Phrase it like that. Let's see what the limit is. And I think that's what.
Well, not
Mr.
just the limit, but also,
well,
I think that it's important that somehow some committee, some body is given the particulars behind athletic hires. We need to be informed. Has the person been vetted? How many people before that person have been vetted? What were their qualifications? We're just given this piece of paper and we're said, just take somebody's word for it. I'm tired of taking somebody's word for it. And I don't think the population that votes for us expects us to sit here and just take it.
Okay, hold on. Dr. Sun.
I'm sorry, I don't understand why there should be more oversight of athletic hires than there is over teachers or anything else. I mean, we have a committee, which is run by Mr. Volpe, that oversees all of our hires and makes recommendations based on that.
My point is, we don't see it as a whole or as a group. I don't get the report as a committee to the whole as a board that we've reviewed these in conjunction with that, and we have and we agreed to this recommendation.
Okay. So I mean, we've had that where we've had reported out for, say, for a supervisor or a central office administrator, where they overview what the process was so that we can, and then the HR committee reviews it more in depth to say, we understand the process, we're aligned with the process. I mean, all hires have to be on the recommendation of the superintendent. There's no dispute about that. So we can do the same with regard. We can look into that with regard specifically to athletic coaches.
I don't have a concern that we're doing a very good job or doing a less than good job or less than great job hiring teachers. The proof is in the pudding. I don't have that same confidence when it comes to our coaches, assistant coaches, from the freshman level up. Pure and simple.
I differ with that opinion. I mean, I think the proof of our athletic teams, coaches, speak for itself. I mean, you can look at how our district performs and competes statewide, and we have very much to be proud of.
Yes,
Let
we
me
do.
just
In those areas where there's excellent instructors and excellent coaches, but there is a pattern now with certain sports where we're failing miserably, and we're going to continue to fail miserably.
If I could just say, I think it's perfectly appropriate for the board to do a deep dive into our process and to ask those questions, and we should be presenting that information to the board so that you feel comfortable that the recommendations that I'm making are things that have gone through a comprehensive process. So we can put that on the next HR agenda to discuss our process as we go through. And if the board likes, we can establish a procedure that indicates how many people applied, how many people were interviewed.
That's what I'm talking about.
Those type of metrics at times can be
within the
helpful.
legalities of what we're allowed to do. I'm not asking us to cross over
Right.
into something.
Yep, and we have certain requirements of posting and making sure that we go through we do our due diligence in bringing the people who are going to be working with our children, finding the best that we can.
The only time we've ever gotten that, no offense, is when I made a huge amount of noise about the fact that someone we were hiring's first reference on their page was the athletic director. It's the only time we've gotten that, and it hasn't happened since, so I think that's one of the things that Steve is also trying to convey.
Well, again, if we can establish a new process in order to provide that information to the board, if that's the will of the board, we have no problem doing that.
So
We want you to feel comfortable and confident with my recommendations.
So as I say, we'll refer it to the HR committee and then also to the governance committee.
But that's not my job to go to.
All right.
He's supposed to go to us.
We have a motion on the table to approve item G 4.5.2. Roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Surely. Ms. Bogoshevsky? Yes. Mr. Cohen?
No.
Okay. Mr. Dutta?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas? Yes. Mrs. Haley?
No.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Let's see, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve item B8 of the action agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Mr. Dutta? Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Surely.
Mr.
Ms.
Mahmood.
Bogoshevsky?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Dutta?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas?
Yes.
Mrs. Haley?
Abstain.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
And Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Continuing on with the action agenda. Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Kintz. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of operations to approve the monthly bills list, line item transfers, and transportation contracts.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve items C1 through C3.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Deb. All right, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please, Mr. Mahmood.
Ms. Bogoshevsky? Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Dutta?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mrs. Haas? Yes. Mrs. Haley?
Yes.
Ms. Wasson?
Yes.
Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay, that concludes the action agenda. Now I'd like to open it back up to the public with regard to public input, and this can be on anything. Old business, new business.
New business? Old business?
Sorry, I have one more thing to say. I want to know, after hearing everything about the allergies that everyone in this room said, when can we expect action on any of these items? I know you just said we'd work together on it. You don't think the hand washing is excessive. It is. The sunflowers is excessive. We need results here. We don't want to just stand here and talk. So I'm kind of looking for something that we could take away from this, knowing that something's actually going to be done when we all leave this room.
Well, it's not just me who thinks it's reasonable. This has been adjudicated through the federal court system as well as the state court system. So this is not. We've been educating children with allergies in the state of New Jersey, life-threatening allergies, for many, many, many years. So there's been a great deal of legal action that has occurred. What we can continue to do is find the areas, hopefully, that we agree upon, that we don't want to put kids into any undue risk. And if there are things, I heard tonight that there were certain things that don't ring true in terms of what we are required to do as part of addressing the needs for kids. And that's going to prompt me to make some phone calls to find out, is that true? Why was that the case? And to try to clarify some of those issues. Our purpose in implementing 5331 is one thing and one thing only, and that's to try to keep kids safe and healthy. That's it. And if there is a misinterpretation of what we need to do, or frankly errors in it, we'll correct those and we'll move forward.
The medical bag in my son's room can't be there. That's the bottom line. Whether it's special permission or I don't care if the federal government says it's great, it can't be there. If he steps on it and he kills himself, are you going to tell me you're sorry? Is that how that's going to go? Because that's what could happen. We saw how easy it was when she did that, right? Even the one that talked to you. What little kid doesn't want to play with that? And I understand each kid needs a health plan. I think that is how you refer to it, and that's fine. But not when it affects other children. it's fine for them, that's fine. That health plan for student A should not affect my son nor my daughter or anyone else's kid in this room. No, that's all I have.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hello, Thomas Zobelli, 9 Upper Neshannock Court. I'll make this very, very short. Again, as I said earlier, my earlier remarks, how my mom used to made the fire engine cake for me and the Bugs Life cake for my brother. I do think it is excessive concerning, I mean, I don't know, I went to school, or when I was in elementary school, that was back in the 90s, go the 90s. But things, of course, have changed over then, but I can't imagine that there were people with severe allergies back then, including myself, not terribly severe, but severe enough. So I think that there really does need to be a balance, and there is such a thing as excessive hand washing, all that kind of stuff. So it does exist, and we should not live in fear, because I could drive home tonight, and God forbid, and hope to God that I won't get into an accident, but that's possible. But I can't, and I'm in college, and I'm going to be graduating. I can't roll up in a cocoon and say, oh, I'm just going to be in a dark room the rest of my life. So let's not live in fear. Let's educate people, and then everything else will work itself out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zabelli.
Hi, I'm Allie Shepler, 47 Wesley Road, Hillsborough. I know we've talked a lot about policy 5331, and I just wanted to understand how you defined reasonable. We talked about excessive hand washing as reasonable, and hand washing as reasonable, but I'd like to define the excessiveness that we're talking about. 4 and 5 times in a school day is how we're defining excessive. And if that is reasonable, will this be then the norm? So will all classrooms then be required to wash their hands 5 times a day? Will it be normal, and will all classrooms be required to, and all students be required to outline what they've had for breakfast every morning, if that is reasonable? And will all classrooms then be required to separate lunch and snack, if that is defined as reasonable? So that's kind of like what we'd like to understand. I understand the policy, and I understand the regulation, and I understand the guidelines in the state. But if you're defining that as reasonable, will we all be held accountable to that, so that we're all treated equal in all the classrooms?
Okay, thank you. So just to recap what I've heard 2 issues. One is with the EpiPens and having children being individual administrators, and the risk that poses to other children, particularly young children that are in there. So actually, I think that may be something that we can send to education, because that's a nuance that I personally have missed. I was thinking, middle school on up, where kids are more responsible and won't view that as a toy. So there's that aspect. And then with regard to how different IHPs or different individual plans and the impact there, that's not as much of a policy issue. That's more of a regulation and administrative issue. So Dr. Schiff has heard your feedback, and he's going to I'm directing him to take administrative responsibility for that.
Tom.
Dr. Sasan.
Sorry. Yeah, I can really appreciate everything that you're saying. I had a child with life-threatening food allergies when she was in elementary school. Thank God she's in high school now, and she has outgrown them. I was told she couldn't carry an EpiPen in first grade, that she could not have one with her. These are all issues that we discuss a lot in the Education Committee. And I'm in just trying to go back specifically to the IHP, what we talk about with all of the children's needs is that we need to put special needs kids in the least restrictive environment. My fear here is that in doing so for a few parents, basically, who are insisting that their child have specific needs, that we are imposing a very restrictive environment on the rest of the class. And so, thank you. As the administration reviews this further and sends it to committee where necessary, I just want to ask specifically to look at not only the needs of the individuals with the IHPs, but the needs of the rest of the kids as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Haley?
I don't have children, and but I have a lot of friends that have children that have these kinds of issues. As a board member, it's difficult because I understand that we're legally bound to do certain things because of regulation. But at the end of the day, I could see if it was one thing, if all of these parents that came out tonight and have been writing us letters didn't have children that didn't have allergies. They all had, most of them said that they had children that also had allergies. So at what point are we now having an environment in one school with one classroom maybe that those children's education is suffering because of it? And that's a problem I have, because that too is what we're supposed to be worrying about, the well-being of all of the children. And now these parents feel that their children's educational experience is suffering because of one or two people. And again, I also have to admit, I find it to be actually scary that those EpiPens are in the classrooms. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Tom.
Mr. Cohen.
I don't have, sorry, Dana.
Dude, raise your hand.
Dana, she goes first, please.
Mrs. Bogaczewski.
So I just want to thank all you parents that came out and spoke tonight. I agree with everything that you said. I agreed with Dr. Saison and Ms. Haley. Speaking as a board parent, as a parent, a board member, and as an ER nurse, I have seen anaphylaxis come in. I have seen misuse of an EpiPen, and I have seen the death of both of those. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I think there's something that we can do to save everyone and have everyone have a normalcy in a classroom. I don't want to see these kindergarten preschoolers, first, second, and third graders end up with OCD, ADD, anxiety. They're too young to have these issues.
Okay, I appreciate it. Let's let Dr. Schiff do his administrative work, find out situation that's going on.
We're only children once.
I understand.
Isn't there a saying, let them eat cake?
That was, I don't know if I'd make that reference.
That's a different, well, Tom, I don't know if I can
Mr.
top
Cohen.
that, but certainly, on many levels, I can empathize with all these parents, since my sister suffered from allergies and had bronchial asthma, and in a time of our existence when maybe one allergist in 5 towns, 6 towns, and you'd have to wait 3 hours for shots. And she lived her life and had 3 children, and then she left us. So, I have a total sympathy with all these people. But the point is, my sister lived her life. And she lived her life, and she knew the risks that she was taking. And so I think, like Dana said, let these children be children. And if there's a way to balance the two and allow these kids to be kids and also being a husband of a teacher, I hear these stories every day about what you can and can't bring to school, and the parents complaining, and this is an environment where the culture is totally different than the ones we're used to, and they don't understand these things, and so she has to hear it every day. So I'm sympathetic and empathetic, but I'm also understanding that there's some things that we need to look at that are within the legal realm. So I think it's safe to say Dr. Schiff's got the message.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Mr. Gillette.
Just real quick. So I think you heard today, people in the public, that board members are well aware of these issues. We do show concern for all parties. in this issue. We did have a discussion. I didn't report it today, but we did have a lengthy discussion about this issue in Operations Committee, as we also heard from Dr. Swasan that you do discuss it in Education Committee also. We talked specifically about accommodations that other students and parents are required to make for another student, and we said, some are passive accommodations, some are active accommodations. I think what we're hearing today is those active accommodations. How did they fit in? That's much different than typically what we think of as very passive, sitting at a different lunch table. That's passive, really. You don't really have to do anything. The lunch tables are all the same. Sit at one or another one. It doesn't matter. But the active things, we've heard that. And Dr. Schiff responded to us at the meeting, and he's well aware also. And as you heard tonight, everything that's happening in our schools now are things that have already been through court systems somewhere, that have been adjudicated and found to be perfectly reasonable. I know we don't like to hear that, but these are things that have already been done. So we have attorneys. They are constantly looking at this. Dr. Schiff is trying to figure out something also. But I didn't want the public to think that in any way the board members are not concerned. All parties, we read all emails from everyone on this issue, and we do have discussion about it outside of board meetings, at our committee meetings. And I personally am concerned about this, and I think there can be more can happen. I don't think this is a finished issue the way it stands tonight. That's all.
I have a request. I just have one more question.
Sure.
I want to have this statute sent to the board that says that the children in their own private homes are excluded from eating peanuts before they come to school. Because I think I heard that as a complaint of a few parents tonight.
Well, they're asked.
They're asked, or they're
what they ate.
I want to. Well, everybody's talking about required. I want to know asked or required.
Well, they're asked.
Okay.
Let's get the facts. So that's part of it is getting the facts. So that's
I just would like
that's
the
for
facts.
Dr. Schiff to do. And thank you, Greg, for that. And the welfare of all children in this
and I
district.
make sure you understand. I said all parties concerned. We have concern about all. But I think there can be all movement, and this, I don't think the way things sits today is how it's going to stand on June 18th for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any
Or
other
whatever the last day of
any
school is.
other-
I like that. I don't
any
know.
other
I'm
old
not even
business
sure.
or new business from the board? Okay. I just want to say Thursday.
one more.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that on Friday we went to see the Hobbit at the Hillsborough Middle School production they put on. It was awesome. Those kids are great. And she's not here tonight, but Mrs. Santafante's son was the star. He was Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit, and he was fabulous, terrific. It was a great show. These middle school kids really know what they're doing in the theater. It was a wonderful production, and our kids are awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette.
I had to get that in there.
Okay. To close, Thursday is our national holiday of Thanksgiving. Some people may not know, while it was celebrated at the state level across different states, it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln, during the Civil War in 1863, called for a national day of praise, prayer, and thanksgiving. So as we sit down Thursday, let us be sure to take a moment to reflect, and give thanks for the splendor and beauty of this world, the wonder of life, for the mystery of love, for the tasks that demand our best efforts, for those disappointments and failures that humble us, and for accomplishments that satisfy and delight us, and finally for the blessing of family and friends, and for the loving care that surrounds us on every side. Thank you. Have a happy, healthy, and safe Thanksgiving. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.